Now then, everybody, and welcome to the channel. Hope you've all had a smashing Christmas. As of this time, it is Boxing Day, and the weather has improved vastly since the past couple of days. Today's video, we are going to be doing a cross-member chop. Now, this is going to be a two-part video. Normally, it'd be one part, but because we're going to be bobtailing this, we need to keep much of the material that would be taken away if we were to chop the cross-member to the extent that I would normally would, like we've got on the white one behind us. So we're just literally going to be marking it out, chopping it, and then for those of you that want to do a cross-member chop without the bobtail, I'll show you how I'd mark out for the rear quarter chops, so you can get that angled quarter cut on the back corners to give you a bit more clearance. But I'll only be marking that out because then what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to chop the cross-member and then prepare for doing the bobtail. And then after that, once I've done the bobtail, if it's required, I will do the chopped quarters, the angled quarters. So let's crack straight on with it, and we'll get into marking out, ready for the chop member cross. Ready for the cross member chop. So here we are at the back of the Niva, and we're going to be cutting somewhere along this point here, but we need to actually measure a precise location for that. And what's going to limit how much we can take off the rear cross member is actually the chassis rail on the inside, which I shall show you right now. So our limit to how much we can chop off the rear cross member is this bit of box section right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to get a combination square. Combination square is one of my favourite tools. I use it for everything but checking if something is actually square, ironically. And we're going to bang our combination square onto this point here, and then we're going to mate it up to the bottom of the cross member, the existing cross member. Tying our screw up. Then what that does is essentially we can turn that around now, bang it on the outside edge, or we can mark that point off. So we've got the height that we're going to chop off it. We get our combination square, eyeball where it matches up to the inside, which is there. Mark it with a blue marker, move over to the other side. And mark it with a blue marker. Now, when you are doing this, you need to make sure to keep the anvil on your combination square level. But of course, what you can do is you can use a tape measure and measure off a datum. Let me just find a tape measure. You can measure off a datum. So in this case, we'll use this bend here where this panel is. That's 65. We go across to this side, and that's 60. So we actually made a mistake somewhere, and I would assume that is from not keeping our anvil level. I'm actually just going to take this measurement off this left side, because if I eyeball it, it does clear that box section, and I'm going to transfer it over to this side. And you could even take your combination square, put it on the bottom of the cross member there, mark it up with your line and make sure it's the same on this side, which it is. Now what we can't do is we can't then take out, I mean we could do, but it wouldn't be very accurate because we don't know if this is being dented at any point. We don't know, I mean all this blistering here could cause us some issues. There's a massive blister there. We could, if we wanted, drag it along and use our combination square with a pen to mark our line. But like I say, that will cause issues. Now, if you're just going to be using this as a rough vehicle, you know, for like just competing and stuff like that, that'd be fine. But if you're going to be using it on the road and using it as like a daily and stuff like that, initially you might not notice it when you first do it, but then the more you look at it day to day and everything like that, you'll notice that your line will be a bit wavy. And if you're like me, that will really annoy you. That'll do your head in. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is get a bit of sheet metal. Now this is the factory edge, so I know that it's straight. I'm going to line it up. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a smaller bit of sheet metal, because this would be a lot easier if I did. I'm going to have to go get an assistant. I will be back. This edge in line with your mark.
The actual edge like that?
Yeah, lovely. Got it?
Oh, God. Is that it?
Uh-huh. You don't have to press so hard.
Huh?
You don't have to press so hard. The other way as well. Alright, and then to you a bit.
Here?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Uh-huh. Lovely, thank you.
Yeah.
Right, so we have got classic British weather kicking in, where it's cold, wet, miserable. Could really do with a workshop, that'd be nice. But we've got our Stabila laser level. It's currently flashing at me saying that it's not level. That's because I've made sure it's following our blue mark that we put at the back of the car with our straight edge and pen. And we're literally just going to trace that now. We're just going to trace it around. I don't know how much of this red line you can actually see on the camera, but I'm sure you get the idea. Hey, Presta. Job's a good one. The rubber mount, we just got to cut through that with a grinder. We know we're going to be changing the exhaust out. Probably going to fit something like a motorbike exhaust, to be honest. Just a straight through with a bit of exhaust muffling in it, some kind of fiberglass or wire wool, something like that. And then we literally go around to the other side and transfer the mark onto the other side with the laser level again. Right, so I'm just going to line the laser up with the blue line on the back of the car. This can be a little bit tedious. It gets a bit redundant after a while because you just got to finesse it, but it does do a good job. Lovely. Right, we get our marker. Give that a quick wipe off with our trouser leg. Transfer the marker around. Bloody British weather. The old paint pen's doing it better. Not so sensitive about the water looking at it. So we've got our mark marked. That's our cut line. We just cut straight through that. Hey presto. Now if you don't have a laser level, what you can do is you can go from the point where your blue mark was, and then you can use a bit of masking tape to follow it around. You could use this sealant edge here as a datum point to take your measurement, but if I were you personally, I'd measure from here with a tape measure. I have one here. From there, it's kind of hard to do one-handed. And that's 310 to that point. And then if we go around the other side, measure again, and it's 310 again. That's how I'd do it. I'd measure from our panel pressing down to here and mark it, and then get your masking tape and just follow it around with masking tape. So next job, get the 9-inch grinder out and chop all that off. Right, let's crack on with cutting it. Big 9-inch grinder, straight along the line. We'll do the exhaust mount first, actually. Let's just chop the exhaust off because we're not keeping it. Bit of weight in that. Oh, it's a bloody Jan speed. Wish I'd known that now. Huh. Might have to modify that so it goes lengthways, because that's a Jan speed. That's a nice exhaust, that. Right, annoyingly, I was hoping this would allow us to cut straight through, but it doesn't. So we're going to have to cut from the inside. Alright, I'm having to lie on the horrible wet ground because I don't have a board to put on the floor. But anyway, such is life. We are now going to cut all of this out of the inside. Now this is the hard bit. This is the bit where it starts getting a bit frustrating and annoying and all that sort of stuff, because it's just a bit difficult to get into it all. It's all little nooks and crannies. Right, for some reason the audio cut out, so anyway, I was saying what you could do is you could mark a line from this edge here across to the other chassis rail, which is here. You can mark that. I'm just going to freehand it, sorry, because I'm feeling a bit lazy. I can't bother going and getting everything to mark it out. So that's me. That's how I'm going to do it. Actually, I might get the combination. I might get the combination square and run it along this bottom edge, just to give me some kind of reference to follow. And then this is all just a real hassle getting in here. It does take a bit of effort and grief and whatnot to get in there. What we might end up doing is chopping it from the outside, getting as much metal off the outside as we can, and then getting the grinder in there and cutting all that out. So let's crack on. Oh, yeah, come on. I would have if I could feel my fingers. Right, so there you have it. That is the rear cross member chopped. It's not a bad job, especially if you've got a workshop. At the moment, I don't have a workshop, so that's doing my head in. I'm having to lay on wet ground and everything like that because I don't have a board at the moment. But it isn't a bad job. When I did that one there, the white one, I did that in about 3 hours. I just decided on the spot that I was going to do it, and the only area really cocked up is here. You can just see it just curves up slightly at that point. Other than that, it was fairly simple. The hardest part is around this area where you got all your recovery points and everything like that. There's a lot of material there, so you just got to take your time. I went in there with a 9-inch grinder, and then for the last bits, got a little 4-inch grinder out, and then it just took a boot with my foot just to knock that, because there's a certain point here and on the other side that you just can't quite get to with the grinder. I just booted it and it broke off, as you saw. And then I'm going to show you, if the light will allow me, I'm going to show you how I'd mark out for the angled quarters like these here. Now on the later tailgates, the long tailgates, you are limited with your angle by the light because the light comes right to this seam here. Whereas on the earlier tailgates, you could go obscene with it if you really wanted to, but personally, I actually like this look here. This is just right for me. I think any more on it would just look ridiculous. Now, I would note, this is in particular relevant on the later tailgate models, the long tailgates. That rear cross member is fundamental to the structure of the car. So I would only do this conversion if you are putting a roll cage in. Minimum a half loop roll cage, a single loop roll cage, so 4-point roll cage. Ideally a 6-point, like I've got in that one. I've got a 6-point roll cage in that. Ideally a 6-point roll cage. I ran in that one without the cage for a while, and when I was off-roading I couldn't open the tailgate on the back on some flexings. As soon as you put the cage in, perfectly fine. If you're keeping the back seats, put your cage to the wheel arch tubs. If you're not having back seats, take the cage to the spring mounts, because that's where your flex is going to come from, because obviously your spring is pushing up on the shell. So if you have your cage going to that spring mount, you're getting rid of any flex in the chassis, and that's that side. It's not so much an issue on the shorter tailgates, because obviously you've still got that panel there, but I would definitely recommend it. This is going to have a cage put in this one. If you're going to be off-roading these things, it just makes sense anyway to put a cage in. They're not made out of the thickest material. They're thick material, yeah, but I certainly wouldn't want to have a rollover in one without a cage. All right, so we've got our cuts here now. This gives us a datum. We can actually measure from this point now. Ideally, it wants to be the same as the other side, which you know roughly it is. Now, personally, I did cock up slightly. I went a bit too high with my cut here. If you stand back and look at it from the chassis, from afar, you can actually see the chassis is slightly lower, which wouldn't be an issue. You'd be able to just, panel that in if you weren't wanting to do the quarters of chops. You could just panel that in and it'd look fine. Especially if it's the same on both sides, it'd look about right. But if you are bothered by that, you want to make note of that the chassis seems to tilt down on the chassis compared to the body. So you might want to just make your cut maybe 10 mil lower if you're going to do this without doing the quarter chop. But for the quarter chop, what I've done is I've gone off my my long tailgate model, and I've roughly eyeballed the dimension. It's about 80 millimeters. So we're going to get our combination square out again. Bang it on the bottom like so. Mark there. Marking 2 points. And then I'm actually going to set this to 150. And I'm going to measure 150 millimeters from this bottom edge here. And we're going to go full length. And then we're going to scribe up or mark up. With a pair of mole grips, we're going to clamp our wire on. I'm using a bit of TIG filler wire, filler rod. It is 2.4 millimeters. You could use 3.2. You can also, this is what I did on the long tailgate one. I used a bit of flat sheet metal, some 1mm sheet metal that I had lying around, a long strip of it. What that does is, obviously, with this being rod, it can bend on multiple axes, whereas your sheet metal only bends on one axis, or at least, yeah, without forcing it, it bends on one axis. So we clamp this on our line here. Well, we would do if it had let us. Then we line it up there, and now this mark here is to locate at which point we want this to start bending down, like that. We take it to where our box section meets this back cross member here. And this is the hard part. He's going to have to sort of eyeball this. Like so. And we're neating that up there. Then you just match your lines up. So then what you do is, obviously, you get your grinder, you cut along there, and then you need a straight edge. And you go from your cut. Well, you'd be able to see your cut from the inside of this arch here. And on the inside, you get your straight edge and mark your line out on your inside, cut your inside, and then you'd make a panel for there. The filler rod is okay. If you have got an extra bit of flat sheet metal around, a strip of flat sheet metal that's just a bit of scrap you got lying around, that makes it a lot better, because, like I say, it's difficult with this and the wire, because the wire wants to bend on multiple axes. Well, that's not bad at all. That's all right. But like I say, for me personally, I'm getting rid of this much material here. This point here, in fact, I can tell you where it is. Yeah, that point there is more than likely going to end up somewhere around here. Yeah, maybe around there. So we're going to take all that out, basically, and then I'll see how I feel afterwards about whether I want to put the chamfered corners on, chamfered quarters. Like I say, if you are going to do this, please only do it if you are putting a cage in of some sort, or if you're going to make a reinforcement for the rear cross member as well. That you could put some kind of triangulated box section in your boot just to replace the rear cross member, essentially. So you're taking the actual original cross member and essentially putting it higher up in the car. It is structural, that rear cross member, without a caging. I'm hoping to get the bobtail done later this week, and once I've done the bobtail, I will actually be paneling that rear cross member up, like you guys will be if you do your rear cross member chop. So that will be included in that video. So that'll be like the second part to the cross member chop, essentially. So stick around for that. If you like what you've seen so far, please like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell so you get the notifications, and you'll also be able to see the second part to this video. Until next time, cheers for now.